I don't know what kind of friends you guys have, but when I bring up crypto, they want to make money. I've never had a conversation with a buddy. He starts asking me about the scaling solutions. All right. He wants to turn his $100 into thousands.
I go to a lot of countries, a lot of OTC desks. You'll do like USDT trades like on the street, and it's all with like low cost L1 chains that they're doing these trades with.
There's only one way out from here, and that's up.
Today I'm joined by George Harrap, founder of Step Finance, the front page of Solana. Dude, what's going on? Yesterday we have a $600 million hack. Binance chain gets halted. We also have Celsius, this crypto yield company that a lot of users were using. They go out and dox all their customers. We're at the stage right now in the market where it feels like everything's falling apart. Is this just how it happens in a bear market? You've seen this a lot of times. You've been in crypto for 11 years. Is this as crazy as it gets, or is this just par for the course?
I think this is just another day in crypto, isn't it? So yeah, look, I'm happy to be here, but like when I wake up in the morning and I see, hack, explosions, flashing lights everywhere, it's like, it's kind of just another normal day in crypto, unfortunately. And it's kind of what's the crazy thing that's going to happen next? And probably most of these things are kind of predictable in some ways. Like how many bridge hacks have we had this year? Like 5 or something? Like a lot. So it's not unheard of.
It's easy to say that, oh man, everything's falling apart because it's the current. Everything always feels worse in the moment. Were previous bear markets worse than what we're seeing right now?
I don't think so. Like, probably the last measuring stick that a lot of us had was, say, 2017, right? 2017, big up, lots of different new things launching. And a lot of those things went kaput or blew up in various ways or lost the money or whatever happened, right? And look, we've seen exactly the same kind of things happen now. And usually like things get quieter generally in bear markets. And I would say that it is quieter now than it was, say, a year ago when it was prime time.
Yeah.
I was like glued to my computer screen for like 10 hours a day, for the like 2020, early 2020 to like late 2021, there was always something happening, always something that you should be knowing about. But now it's like, it's not really the case, right? So maybe we've hit a plateau of like new innovations or something like that. But I think what happened with the last bear markets is you get these things which make no sense to anyone. And then, people start sort of building them in bear markets. And then maybe like a year or two passes. And then eventually everyone's like, oh yeah, that thing actually is pretty important. Like I remember, speaking of 2017, that was when altcoins became really a thing, right? But actually a few years before that, you had Poloniex and Cryptsy and a bunch of other exchanges that were doing altcoin stuff, and all
Clams
they did was
and Decred and names that people today probably don't even know.
Exactly. Yeah. And back then it was like a weird thing because a lot of exchanges back then always had like a native fiat pair to like anchor their exchange. And they were like, this is the Bitcoin like USD market, and we have a real USD bank account and we do this. And then these other exchanges came along and they're like, don't have a bank account, just use USDT as our anchor. So we kind of like sidestepped the whole need for like fiat integration. And hey, by the way, we just do altcoin trades. And everyone was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm really too interested in that. And they didn't really do anything for a couple of years. But then all of a sudden, hey, it became the flavor of the month. And then, everything took off. And yeah, maybe we've seen some similar stuff with like DeFi in 2020 and maybe NFTs as well in some capacity. So yeah, you never know where it's going to come from. But there's always like weird things that'll pop up and surprise you.
People build what is going to be used. I like that you mentioned that. People build what's going to be used in times like now. And then you wait until the users to show up to see what sticks, right? Like, as you said, altcoins back then, everyone was like, do I really want to trade an exchange that just offers altcoins? I'm much more interested in this Bitcoin exchange that has a bank account. Slowly, now everyone just trades on Binance or Bybit, wherever it is that has the newest alts. Same thing with NFTs. Same thing with DEXs. That was a topic back in the previous bear market where everyone would say next year is going to be the year of the DEX. Next year is going to be the year of the DEX. And I heard it so many times that I started thinking, no one is going to trade on DEXs. Today, no one could get away with saying that because of how big Uniswap and everything else has become. Yeah, it's wild how it changes.
Yeah, and you know what? I think one of is it an improvement? I think it is the actual native pricing mechanism for a lot of things. So let's, if you rewind 5 years, usually everything's referenced to a USD value, right? There's always a trading pair against USD or USDT. That's still the case now. But I think what NFTs have done is that everyone prices their NFTs either in Ethereum or Sol. And like it's not against USDC. Like no one's going, oh, this NFT is worth X amount of USDC or something. It's always like priced against the native L1, which I think is like, that's great. Like that's probably how things should be if we want to go into a crypto only world and be able to transact freely across the internet. Like we shouldn't really be tying to fiats. Like yes, there's a time and a place for that, but I think that's pretty cool. Like that's an emergent thing, an emergent property perhaps, which just sort of happened, and now everyone's accepted as normal, and we're probably never going back. So I don't know, like, will things be priced in Bitcoin? Will they be priced in Ethereum or Solana later, like altcoins and stuff? Maybe. I think people are still very tied to the sort of US dollar value of things, but yeah, maybe NFTs are showing the way.
That's one aspect of NFTs that I love. I would almost take the other side though, that it sticks around for forever. And the only reason I say that is if you go back to altcoins, even 2 or 3 years ago, when all the altcoins were priced in Bitcoin markets, and then slowly every exchange started doing these USDT, and they would do futures and perps for every single altcoin. Now it's ridiculous to track every altcoin you have in Bitcoin. Like no one does that, especially new entrants to the market. Everyone trades versus USD. And right now, as you said, yeah, when you buy an NFT, you buy a CryptoPunk, you know it's going to be 80 ETH or 100 ETH. And I think that that's great for NFTs today. I agree with that. Like I would never, I've spent money on some NFTs where it's like, oh, this is just 1 or 2 ETH. If I looked at the price tag and I was like, I'm spending $6,000 on, I don't even know what that drawing is, that would probably not make me purchase it. The other side, though, is since altcoins went through that phase of being priced in Bitcoin, then they slowly eventually go to USD, I'm very curious whether or not NFTs do that too, or if they stick with ETH and Solana. If they can stick with it, I think it's great for NFTs. Because if they change, I'm not sure people are going to want to spend $50,000 on all the shit they're buying today. It's like mentally, it's easier to spend ETH and Solana than it is to spend USD.
Yeah, I think it's like some sort of psychological thing, which certainly helps people make those decisions. Like if you see that some NFT is like 5,000 USDC, you're probably going to be like, yeah, maybe it's not really worth that. But if it's like, oh, it's just a couple of ETH, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like I've got a couple of ETH. And it's just this like mental way that things are priced. And also like, when like bear markets, right? A lot of currencies go down in US dollar values. So really like the same NFT should actually be worth more of the native token, if it was to, and then maybe people think that they're sort of, hey, my NFT is going up in value because the number go up. Maybe that's a psychological thing as well, which really in like US dollar terms is probably not going up, but like on paper, technically, yeah, it's going up in like that particular currency.
That's going to be an interesting idea to test in the next bull market. I think that eventually it changes, although I hope it doesn't for all the reasons we just listed. I think it's just much more enjoyable to trade things versus ETH and Solana than to think, wow, that could be my rent for the whole year. This picture I just bought. I don't want to think about that mentally. Man, one of the interesting beliefs as well in previous bear markets that I used to wrestle with was this idea that things weren't going to come back, right? Like after 2017, 2018, even if you were a big believer in Bitcoin and crypto, which I was, I had already gone all in. Nothing, I wasn't leaving this. I was going to ride it to zero, but you did have to seriously consider, did I just participate in the biggest bubble of all time? Bitcoin went to 20K and we go to 3K like 2 days later. Should I have sold everything? Like, did I just miss my one chance? That isn't so much of a worry anymore. Maybe it is for the very small percentage of people, but I don't think too many people consider that now. I think we've reached this escape velocity for anyone that spent time in crypto. What do you think about Solana versus, because ETH and Bitcoin, I think, have reached that level. You have a unique perspective into Solana, building a company that can kind of crunch all the analytics and the data there. Do you think Solana's reached the escape velocity where you can look at that coin and say, this isn't going anywhere? That wasn't just kind of a bubble where we reached peak Solana activity or whatever. This is going to stick around. People have that belief about Bitcoin and ETH. They've shown it for enough cycles. These things aren't going. Everything else, it's kind of like, I don't know, this altcoin could exist today. It might be gone tomorrow. Has Solana reached that level where it was here? Yes, it got very high, but it's not going away.
Yeah, I think so. The first thing to sort of guard against, have I made a wrong decision or something like that is, if you have a philosophical perspective on why crypto matters, then I think it doesn't matter what the market does, if number goes up or number goes down. If you think that fundamentally, like the world should be transacting on a private encrypted ledger that no one can tamper with and stuff like that. If you think that that's the future and it's just a way better way of doing things, then ultimately, like, numbers going to go up eventually, and yeah, there's going to be markets coming down. So like, I would say that's the first thing to keep in mind of anyone trying to sort of predict where things are going. My thesis is that, firstly, the creation of new ideas is not going to stop anytime soon, right? Anyone with a computer is going to be able to just go and make a coin that does something, and then maybe it's the most amazing thing ever, right? And great, that's innovation. So people that are sort of more locked into the mindset of, oh, there's only 1 or 2 blockchains that are ever going to exist, or they're going to garner the most traction or something like that. It hasn't really gone that way in crypto's history. Like, a lot of the building has morphed from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and now Ethereum to Alt L1s as well. So like, we can probably say that, look, there's always going to be someone with a new idea somewhere about something, right? And in Solana's case, like, Solana's all about making everything on the L1 super fast and being able to do that at scalable speed, I guess what they would say. So like Ethereum, how do you scale Ethereum? The idea is with L2s. So you have an L2, maybe you have some apps in that L2, they all transact together and they do a lot of transactions, and they're not interfering on the main L1 chain. The problem with that approach, though, is that it silos liquidity. So I can't do a transaction on Ethereum that utilizes the liquidity of an L2 somewhere, because I usually have to cross a bridge or go through a roll-up, or in some cases, like optimistic rollups, take 7 days to get out of it, and otherwise I need to take custodial risk to get the money back, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's not addressable within the same layer. Whereas Solana, everything is addressable within the same layer. So you've got perp dexes, you've got option markets, you've got order book dexes, you've got AMMs, you've got NFT markets, you've got lenders. All of these different things are all addressable on exactly the same layer with exactly the same shared liquidity pool, which I think is super important, right? So like, when Solana first launched and there was no projects on there, like, it could have gone anywhere. It could have gone to zero tomorrow. But it just so happened that there was a critical mass of people starting to build stuff. And in the case of liquidity, like, there was Alameda market making and doing stuff
that helps
on the Serum order books, which certainly helped, right? So, that kind of kickstarted it. And now at the recent hackathon, there was like however many, 8,000, 10,000 entries. There was like 550 different projects that submitted something from that hackathon. These hackathons are held every three months or something like that. So like, there's a lot of people building stuff. So I think that escape velocity in Solana has been reached already. We've got a critical mass. There's like 5, 6 AMMs. There's like 7 lenders. There's like 5 NFT markets. There's like NFT AMMs now. There's 4 of them. Like, there's a lot of different things, right? It's not just like, oh, there's just one DEX. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I think odds are that Solana is going to do pretty well.
As you look at some of the good stuff happening on ETH, proof of stake transition happened. A lot of the scaling solutions are being built out now, and I think we'll see those come to life in the next bull market. As ETH grows, do you view that as beneficial to Solana? Of like, that's just, as crypto grows, Solana probably grows with it, or do you view them as competitors? The reason I'm asking, it's like such a fun debate to have, because the Bitcoin versus ETH debate is just ridiculous at this point. I don't know why people even still talk about those two. But these L1s, I think it's a much more interesting, like, how do I allocate capital? Where are people building? Where are the users going to go? It's a much more interesting idea to wrestle with, because they are more comparable. They are two things that either can coexist and grow together, or one really starts stealing maybe NFTs. They only happen on Solana, and most of the DeFi goes to ETH, or vice versa, right? I think it's a much more interesting topic. So what's kind of your view on that? Is ETH doing well beneficial for Solana, or do you think it's always going to be like a PvP? They're kind of stealing market share from each other.
I think it's kind of a PvP certainly right now in the bear market, but also, like, where are the users at? The users are not on Ethereum. They're on Alt L1s. Like, if you look at the number of addresses and the number of actions that people do with addresses, we put out a recent newsletter comparing OpenSea and Magic Eden NFT users. The average OpenSea user does something like 1.7 transactions per 30 days or something like that, some time period. And the average Magic Eden user does almost 8. So there's a lot more people transacting a lot more often on things like Solana and also BSC. People like to discount them because of various reasons, but hey, look, they have a lot of users. So it's like, in the case of Solana, like, there are lots of users on Solana. In fact, in many protocols, there's like more users on Solana than other verticals in Ethereum. Ethereum has the TVL and it has the money, and that's probably really because, like, if you look at DeFi TVL, people are like, oh, Ethereum's like 20x the TVL of Solana, and it's like, yeah, well, Ethereum's also as an L1 like worth 20x the market cap of Solana, so it makes sense, right? That actually it's all in line. But I think the most important thing is, where are the users going to go, and why are they choosing alternative L1s? is because you've probably experienced the same thing. I've introduced people to Ethereum who have just got like $100 or something and they want to try it out. And in the past, it was like, oh, what can I do with my $100? Can I stake it? Can I do these other things? There was cases where I would introduce people and it would cost like $80 in transaction fees, and MetaMask was hard to use. And then, it took a while, or the transaction got dropped, and you had to redo it again. And then you have to explain all of these subtleties, and people like, wait a minute, I had $100 and you're telling me that now I've ended up with like 10 and I'm never going to make that money back ever at a 6% APR. So things like that, right? People don't want to do that. So, people, I think that's the appeal of a lot of these alt L1s, is they're just cheaper. And a lot of people talk about it and say, oh, this is maybe a big deal or not a big deal, but really, like, users actually do care. Like a lot of people that come to Step, they've never used Ethereum. Like you can tell them about Uniswap and you go, hey, Uniswap's this thing, it has this pedigree, it's been around for years, they invented AMMs. Nobody cares. Like, yeah, they've only been in this whole game for the last month or so. And to them, like, all of these other things have flashing lights and it's way cheaper and they have a lot of different stuff going on. Whereas, Uniswap is, yeah, okay, it's the tried and tested and it's always there, but it doesn't have the flashing lights and it's more expensive. So that's why I think, like, Solana, it's going to do well as long as it maintains the users. That's the most important thing. It's not so much about like, oh, is it versus Ethereum or something like that. It's like, as long as it gets users, like, that's the most important thing.
I even think it's simpler. I think people just like to see number go up, and what are their chances of seeing number go up? And at the end of the day, they see something with a smaller market cap or more upside, more perceived upside, let's say, and they choose a dog coin or they choose an NFT, or if they're at least have their brain somewhat turned on, they start deciding, should I invest in something like Ethereum or Solana or some other things that actually have promise? But I think that's really what drives a lot of decisions. Like, it is funny that people so wrapped up in crypto get caught up in this technological, this one's more scalable or this one's more decentralized. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of friends you guys have, but when I bring up crypto, they want to make money. And that is all they care about here, boys. I've never had a conversation with a buddy over a beer and he starts asking me about the scaling solutions. All right. He wants to turn his $100 into 1,000. So, and that's what it comes down to, I think. What's the activity levels on Ethereum and versus Solana? You just brought up that a lot of users, at least you're seeing on the NFT side, more activity with Solana. If you were to look at, and there's so many different ways to measure this, right? So we have to kind of be specific in how we talk about it. But if I were to compare the activity on Ethereum today versus the activity on Solana, how does Solana stack up? And what's the best way to even measure that, right? Some people say developer, some people say user, some people say money transacted. Like, what's a fair way to compare them, or one or two ways?
Yeah, exactly. That is a good question, because it's like, there could be many ways. I've seen people post like GitHub activities of people creating projects based on like the L1's SDK or something like that, or various tooling and stuff like that. In that case, if you're to look at that metric, Solana and Ethereum are about comparable at the moment. Ethereum's obviously had the highest number of a lot of the activity of dev repos on GitHub, but Solana's caught up quite a lot recently, and maybe that's because of all of the hackathons and different things. Will those projects stay around? Don't know. But if you were to look at just that metric, they're about comparable in terms of the number of developers and stuff these days. If you were to look at like a number of transactions of people fee-paying transactions, that might be another way to do it. I think Solana, people like to look at the TPS of different things, right? Now, Solana has a lot of transactions which are kind of like voting transactions by the validators. So they are real, but they're not, say, activity. It's bots. So you can remove them, and they're like 80% of the transaction flow. But even if you do, it's still like 500, 600 TPS. I think I looked at the other day, in terms of real fee-paying transactions of people doing stuff, which is still like 10, 20x whatever Ethereum's at. At the moment as well. So maybe that's another way to measure it. Then you could look at daily active users, right? And then we've got the OpenSea versus the Magic Eden example. So there's a lot more there. Ethereum has a lot more historical users at the wallets that have done stuff in the past. But the question is, like, what are wallets doing right now? And in that metric, I think, again, they're kind of comparable. Probably Ethereum has a little bit more activity there, but like, if you were to measure it on any of these metrics, like, basically they're pretty comparable in a lot of different things, if not like more so on the Solana side for like individual users doing stuff. Like Phantom Wallet, that's one of the largest wallets on Solana. I think they have 3 million users or something like that. Coin98, another one, very big in Southeast Asia. I was with their team like last week or the week before at the Singapore Solana Hacker House. They said they have 5 million users who have ever downloaded and made a wallet. Now, are they active users? I don't know, but 5 million, that's a big number. Yeah, so it's like these are big numbers, right? And I think Phantom raised at like $1 billion valuation when they had 1 million or 2 million users and people using it and stuff like that. So it's like, hey, MetaMask could do the same, but like these are big numbers. So people should realize that.
Coin98, not to get too much on a tangent, but I don't know if you ever looked at that coin's chart. That coin, I cannot figure it. It is the most bizarre coin. I don't know what it's doing today, but I remember in the bull market, that thing it'd be up like 4x, then it's down 70%. I used to look at that chart and I was thinking to myself, I would go to the website. I'm like, okay, it's kind of a wallet. I'd go back to the chart. I'm like, what the hell are people doing? I could never figure that chart out. I'm glad it's like a real team, a real thing. I could never figure out what the hell is going on over there.
Yeah, really big in Vietnam.
Okay.
So that's their home base and their home audience and everything. And they're expanding to like Indonesia and a couple of other places. So yeah, I mean, I met the team. They are real, doing good stuff on Solana. So good on them. But yeah, there's actually actually on Step, we have to support all of the different wallets. There's some crazy number, like 12 or 13 wallets or something right now that we have to support. Everyone's got a wallet. Brave's got a wallet. There's this new XNFT thing wallet. There's like the old wallet, which FTX made called Solid. There's Phantom, there's Soulflare, there's another. So there's like a million different wallets all doing stuff. Whereas maybe that's another metric, right? Of like, people building things which onboard new users, and the first point of contact for most people is a wallet. On Ethereum, that's usually just MetaMask. Like they have a sort of massive audience there, and I don't know what the market share is, but it's probably like,
it's gonna be 99%. I mean, there's another thing, it can I stare at this stuff all day. I never see any other wallets. Maybe like one called Rain, but I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, that's another cool metric that like, at least there's some more diversity in like the numbers of wallets, and they all do different stuff and whatever. So yeah.
As I kind of shift my focus, like one thing I've tried to do, and you referenced this at the beginning, it's important right now, I think, when things are falling apart, when coins aren't going up, to sit back, kind of take the perspective of like, what is the best way I can spend my time? Is it valuable to stare at my screen 10 hours a day and watch companies implode and people get liquidated? Like, is that valuable? Or should I start thinking about where users are going, where they're going to be in 6 or 12 months? I think that's obviously more valuable. It's what I'm trying to do more and more each day. It's fun to keep up with what's current, but it's probably better time spent if I'm trying to think about the next big idea. One of the ideas that I keep hearing people repeat, and I'm not sure if they're saying it because they've heard other people or if it's because they're actually thinking this. There's these new L1s coming out, Sui and Aptos. There's a lot of hype. And one of the repeated lines I keep hearing, this narrative I keep hearing about both these chains, is that they are going to be Solana's competitors. Or they're the next Solana, is what I've heard some people say. You spend so much time on Solana, know the ins and outs. What are your view on Sui and Aptos? Have you studied those at all? Have you seen what's being built? Do you think that's fair that they're trying to compete with Solana, or is it people's mental model of Solana was the L1 that came in and is now a big thing? These things are trying to come in. Like, how should people think about these? Is there anything even worth focusing on with these?
Yeah, so like they're trying to compete on the speed of transactions again, and also they have a lot of backers, which are kind of the same people that were pushing Solana in terms of liquidity and stuff in the early days. So for like traders and stuff. But really what made Solana work was, I think we mentioned before, was like this ecosystem, this kickstart that it got, a lot of people building stuff, and creates that snowball effect that, you have a lot of things starting up and you have a lot of things to build on, and then you can make them more composable, and you can use this thing over here and that vault over there and put them together and stuff like that. None of that exists on Sui and Aptos at the moment. They're still like very beta in terms of anything existing at all. So I think it's too early to say. So like, interested to watch what happens there. I don't think many people on Solana are really sort of caring about anything that's going to happen there. Because the thing is, like, to be able to kick off a new L1 in a bear market, that's like one of the hardest jobs. Because if you can't kick off any other normal project, like right now, you could have the best project in the world, right? But everything number go down. So it doesn't matter, like, whatever anyone's doing and how amazing it is, like, it all goes down in a bear market. So it's kind of like, yeah, to try and kick off all of that, ecosystem and traction when the number of users is way down, There's less people clicking buttons and doing stuff. I just don't think it's like a viable sort of thing that's really going to emerge. Maybe like 3 years in the future or something like that, it'll be a totally different world. But for right now, I don't really think there's too much sort of interest there. So yeah.
Okay. All right. That's kind of what I thought. I had just seen so many threads about it. It's probably investors talking their book, which I understand. People do that. It's fair to do, but I've seen that. I've seen that repeated so many times. They're like, all the Solana investors are shifting to Sui and Aptos. This is it. Solana is, this is going to take over Solana. And I keep thinking to myself, like, man, that's strange. I haven't seen it's like the same 8 people that keep saying that. So is that true, or is that what they want to happen?
Yeah, we'll see. I think at least, what Solana's trying to do is they're trying to focus on the users, right? So they got the phone thing, which they announced a couple, months back. And whatever you think of the phone, I think it's like, I've seen crypto phones before. Like I was helping advise HTC a little bit with their crypto phone like years ago.
What was that phone called? What was the company that there was a ICO though that came out with a phone, and I bought that phone. I think it might have been an HTC phone.
It was the Exodus. Was it that one? The HTC Exodus?
Where it has like a little wallet pop up on top. I forget there was a crypto company that had a phone too. I don't know. There's probably been multiple.
There's been a few. There's been like 5 crypto phones or something like that, right? So it's the thing is like building a crypto phone is super hard. So I think it's not about the physical hardware of a phone and it has a camera and blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? I think what Solana's trying to do is A, the App Store, but B, they came to the realization of everyone has a phone, and the number of like smartphone usage in the world is just trending upwards. It's like billions and so on. And for crypto to be a big thing, it needs to reach people directly. So what's the best way to do that? Okay, it's through your phone. Okay, so maybe we should do something with phones. So it's like, I appreciate the thinking and actually like putting money on the line to try and do that, because like no one else is. And even if it ends up as a dud and it doesn't go anywhere, okay, well, at least they're like thinking the right sort of thing of like, how do we drive users and adoption? Other people aren't doing that. So like, props to them for trying to do that, right? So, and they got like physical stores and that sort of thing now. They're trying to sort of introduce it to normies and retail. I don't know how that'll go. Like we've kind of seen that play out for many years, like Bitcoin payments and stuff. No one wanted to pay anything in Bitcoin. Maybe it's different this time around with stable coins. So yeah, maybe we'll sort of see what happens there. But yeah, I don't know. At least they're trying stuff, which is cool to see.
Right. When I saw that it got a ton of hate on the announcement of the Solana phone, but I was like, guys, when someone wants to build a crazy idea here, you have to kind of respect it and get behind it. In this, even if you don't like the phone, like you probably won't use the phone. I still love my iPhone, right? I'm going to use this thing every single day. But if it helps, X amount of other people that want to get invested, like I don't care. That's pretty sweet. I'll check it out. I bought the other crypto phones just to have. They're cool to play around with for a little bit. So I'm all for it. Who knows what comes of it? But as you said, yeah, it's exciting to see them trying new angles with a continued. It seems like the sole focus on all their developments are how do we get new users that aren't already into crypto, versus a lot of other discussions and topics and innovation in crypto is like, how do we build the next game for people that are already in crypto? And I think that's one of the biggest differences. Before we wrap here, George, what's like a piece of data working at Step you've built? I kind of view it as like a Nansen, but for Step. It has all the analytics on Solana. You can see what traders, investors, builders are doing. And you have this vantage point that not very many people have. What's something that you've been tracking or keep your eye on that other people probably don't look at or aren't aware of? Like, what's the most interesting metric you generally follow for Solana that might be helpful for other people?
I think for us at Step, one of our interesting metrics is like where are people coming from that use Step? Actually, like for English speaking countries, it's maybe like 20 to 25%. The rest is like Turkey, Thailand, Nigeria, Japan, like a couple of others. It's all of those sort of countries in the list. Now, those are places which like how much documentation is written in Thai or Vietnamese or Turkish? Probably none, right? So like, how are these people discovering the product? That's number one. And like, how are people going about using it? So I actually think there's like a massive untapped audience there of like, if you can just translate your DApp or whatever you're trying to do into those languages and provide content and stuff like that, you can just be number one overnight kind of thing. So I think for us, like it's where are the users coming from? It's a lot of emerging markets. Cool, that's interesting. How do we approach that? Why are people going to Solana there? I go to a lot of countries, a lot of OTC desks. You'll do like USDT trades like on the street. And it's all with like low cost L1 chains that they're doing these trades with. So, maybe that's an interesting metric. I think another one, like for the chain itself, like we mentioned NFTs, but clearly that is where all of the users are on Solana right now. Unfortunately, like, last year it was DeFi and there's a lot of different DeFi stuff going on and it was doing really well. It's not the case at the moment, unfortunately. But, things like Magic Eden and all of these other ones that are, popping up now, they have tons of users. So it's kind of like, how many transactions are those users doing? What is the percentage of transactions for the whole entire chain that NFTs are doing? I think it's some crazy number. Like it's more than 50% at the moment. So yeah, stuff like that I think is worth keeping an eye on as well. Those are the interesting metrics, I guess, for us. And yeah, it's kind of, again, it's like where the users are, what are they doing?
People need to keep an eye on that. I think focusing less on the big headlines, the big scary headlines. What I said at the beginning of the show, what all of you listening and watching have probably seen lately is X company falls apart. This fund goes under. It's like, yeah, it's fun to track, but at the end of the day, in 6 months, what's going to matter is if you understand where are users going, what coins are they buying, right? Where's the activity? Because if you can understand that today, it's less sexy. It's not as fun to maybe look at that data today, but in 6 or 12 months, if your portfolio is 10x, your buddy, it's that's going to be a lot more enjoyable. So I do think that's valuable to keep an eye on. George, it also makes me think, gosh, if I could translate my show into Turkish or Japanese or all these other things, I could just be the biggest investor show ever globally. I gotta do that.
Boom.
Do I have to learn these languages, or I gotta find someone to be me and speak in all these languages? I gotta sort that out somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get the translates down the bottom there or something like that.
That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, like so recently we translated all of Step into Turkish, and that's sort of our trial market to see all of this sort of working out. So yeah, we're and like Turkey's a country where 1/3 of the population has a Binance account. And I spoke to some of the local exchanges. Crazy. That's like over 20 million people. And I spoke to some of the exchange CEOs, and they were saying during the bull market last year, they had 1 million people a month signing up. So like that's crazy, right? Like imagine, and that's why they had to ramp up their support desk to like hundreds of people answering questions like, what's a wallet and where's my money and stuff like that, right? But it's huge. So, and you can go down the street and you can see like, oh, there's like 8 OTC dealers, like they're willing to do trades. And that's probably because the local currency like sucks and it's, got wrecked over the last year. And everyone's just like, you know what? I should probably just use Tether or something. And a lot of people do. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys are beating me to that. And let me know how that goes as you translate to Turkish. If you guys go absolutely parabolic, I got to figure this. I got to either find the Turkish me or I got to figure out how to translate. I think that's the next step. George, thank you so much for coming on, man, walking us through what people should be focused on. I don't know if they're going to do it. I'm still going to look at some headlines, but it's probably valuable to start thinking about where the users are going. Before we wrap, where can people check out Step? They've probably heard us talk about some of these metrics. Maybe their brain's working if they get some coffee in them. They want to check it out this weekend. What's the best way to keep track of what's happening in Solana, and what can they learn about? How do they do it?
Yep. So we have step.finance as our website. Go there. We also have a learn page, step.finance/learn. That gives you like guides on basically how to use all these different protocols and stuff. We're on Twitter. It's just Step Finance on Twitter. Check us out, and come join the Discord as well. It's always sort of good content there. So yeah, we want to be like that one place. We say like our tagline is like, the front page of Solana. It's like the place that you go to find out everything first, and that's what we're going for.
I'm going to check it out myself. George, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Luke. It's been a pleasure.